You've been taught that more is the goal. More things, more friends, more projects, more wins. That the measure of your life is the length of your to-do list, the size of your circle, the number of tabs open in your mind. But what if more is what's making you miserable? What if the very thing you keep chasing is the thing that's draining you? The truth is, you don't need more. You need less, but deeper. Fewer commitments, but with full presence. Fewer people, but with real connection. Fewer goals, but with ruthless clarity. Because in a world addicted to speed and volume, depth has become a lost art. We don't listen to understand. We listen to reply. We don't build relationships. We collect them. We don't live. We accumulate. And we wonder why we feel so empty. Why nothing ever feels enough. Why every achievement fades as fast as it arrives. It's because we're spread too thin. Our energy is scattered. Our attention is divided. Our souls are starving for depth in a world that only knows how to skim the surface. But real fulfillment isn't found in excess. It's found in essence. And essence requires subtraction. You have to peel back the layers of distraction, noise, obligation. You have to let go of the pressure to always be doing, producing, proving. You have to unlearn the lie that worth is measured in quantity, because it isn't. Your value isn't in how much you can hold. It's in how deeply you can feel, how clearly you can see, how intentionally you can live. That means saying no. No to the things that look good but feel hollow. No to the opportunities that scatter your focus. No to the relationships that drain instead of nourish. No to the idea that being busy is the same as being alive. You start choosing less, but choosing it fully. One project done well, one conversation fully present, one purpose fully pursued. That's where power lives. Not in the many, but in the meaningful. Not in doing everything, but in doing the right thing with everything you've got. That's not laziness, that's mastery. Anyone can stay busy, anyone can be everywhere, but it takes clarity and courage to go deep, to slow down and choose what really matters. And yes, it will feel uncomfortable, because our world praises the wide. It celebrates the loud, the fast, the crowded. But don't let the noise confuse you. Most people are lost in the very more they're chasing. They have more stuff, but less peace. More followers, but less connection. More noise, but less truth. More stimulation, but less meaning. Don't be one of them. Don't trade your depth for their distraction. Don't dilute your soul trying to fit into a world built on surface-level validation. Go deep instead. Dive beneath the surface of life. Sit in the silence. Stay in the moment. Learn to be where your feet are. Learn to be enough where you are. Not when you have more, not when they approve, not when you've checked every box. Now. This is where life begins. When you strip away the extra, when you let go of the more, you return to the core of who you are, what you value, what you're building. And that clarity changes everything. You stop reacting to everything that moves. You stop running from the emptiness with noise. You stop performing, comparing, chasing. You start listening. You start creating. You start living with a sense of direction no chaos can shake. Because now you're not after more, you're after meaning. And that changes your pace. That changes your energy. That changes your standards. You stop trying to be impressive and start trying to be impactful. You stop trying to be seen everywhere and start trying to be felt deeply. And that is a different kind of success. The kind that can't be bought, rushed, or faked. The kind that requires silence, presence, and soul. So no, you don't need more. You never did. You need less, but with intention. Less, but with heart. Less, but so much deeper. Depth takes discipline. It takes the courage to stop chasing what's easy and start choosing what's essential. Anyone can fill their life with noise. Anyone can stay busy. But few have the courage to sit still long enough to hear their own truth. Few have the strength to say no to the crowd, no to the pressure, no to the endless offers that pull them in 1,000 directions. But if you want peace, you have to protect your energy. If you want clarity, you have to stop overcommitting. If you want to live fully, you must live selectively. Less is not a limitation, it's liberation. Because when you remove the unnecessary, what remains becomes undeniable. You finally see what matters. You feel it. It pulls you. It simplifies your life in the most powerful way. No more rushing to prove your worth. No more drowning in distractions that feel urgent but aren't important. No more being everywhere but never really here. Instead, you bring all of you into fewer things. Your energy is no longer spread across 10 half-hearted efforts. It's poured like fire into the one thing that moves you. That's where transformation happens. Not when you do more, but when you go deeper. And to go deep, you must slow down. You must breathe. You must cut through the layers of noise until you reach the truth. And yes, it will feel uncomfortable, because most people don't know how to sit in stillness. Most people don't know who they are without their busyness. They wear "I'm so busy" like a badge of honor. But what they're really saying is, "I'm distracted. I'm afraid to face the silence," because silence forces you to confront what you've been avoiding. It asks, what are you running from? What have you filled your life with that looks full but feels empty? These are hard questions, but you need them, because life isn't a race, it's a revelation. And revelation only happens when you get quiet enough to hear it. The deeper you go, the more you realize how little you actually need. You don't need more followers to feel worthy. You don't need more praise to feel validated. You don't need more milestones to feel alive. What you need is to feel connected to the few things that matter, the work that feeds your spirit, the people who see your soul, the purpose that keeps your inner fire burning. Everything else is noise, and once you see that, you can never unsee it. You'll never again chase applause that costs you your peace. You'll never again spread yourself thin just to keep up. You'll walk slower, but you'll walk straighter. You'll speak less, but with more weight. You'll do less, but what you do will leave a mark. That is the power of depth. It's not loud. It doesn't need to be. It moves differently, silently, strongly. And when you live this way, people notice. Not because you're everywhere, but because when you show up, you're undeniable. You're not another voice. They feel your presence. You're not another face. They remember your impact, because you've stopped trying to impress the world and started expressing your truth. You've stopped chasing the infinite and started mastering the essential. And that kind of life isn't just powerful, it's peaceful. It doesn't demand more from you. It demands more of you, more honesty, more focus, more depth. So ask yourself, what am I doing that's shallow? What am I saying yes to just to feel busy? What am I holding on to that doesn't nourish me anymore? What can I let go of so I can finally go deep into what matters? Because your breakthrough isn't in the next thing you add. It's in what you're brave enough to remove. Less, but deeper. That's your new standard. That's your new rhythm. That's your new way forward. You don't need more time. You need more truth. Because it's not the hours that are missing, it's the intention. You've been moving fast but going nowhere. You've been climbing but not questioning if the ladder is leaning on the right wall. That's what happens when you chase more without clarity. You keep adding things to fill a void, and every addition only makes the silence inside louder. The truth is, you were never meant to do everything. You were meant to do the right thing with everything you've got. But most people are too afraid to go deep because depth demands sacrifice. It demands letting go of the things that once made you feel secure. The praise, the patterns, the people-pleasing. But what got you here won't get you where your soul wants to go. And you feel it. You feel the pull. That quiet whisper that keeps asking, what if you stopped? What if you stopped trying to prove yourself with volume? What if you started trusting yourself through focus? What if you gave your whole heart to one thing instead of pieces of it to everything? That's where everything shifts, because you can no longer tolerate surface-level anything. Conversations that don't nourish, goals that don't align, relationships that don't see you. You start craving something real, something rooted, something that moves you from the inside out. And that craving isn't random, it's a calling, a call back to yourself, a call away from the pressure to keep up and towards the power of slowing down. You begin to realize that your peace is hidden in your priorities, and that not everything deserves a space in your life just because it asks for it. You stop answering every request. You stop reacting to every ping. You stop explaining yourself to people committed to misunderstanding you, because you found something more important than being liked. You found your rhythm. A rhythm built on alignment, not obligation. A rhythm that says no without guilt and yes without hesitation. You begin to master the art of focus, not just in work, but in life. You eat with attention. You listen with presence. You rest without apology. You do one thing at a time, and you do it with everything inside you. And that's when your power becomes undeniable. Not because you're doing more, but because what you do now carries weight. It's felt, it's real, it's deep. And that depth separates you. It separates you from the scattered, the overstimulated, the burned out. It puts you in a different league, not above, but beyond. Beyond the noise, beyond the rush, beyond the lie that more is always better, because you've seen what most never will. The most powerful people in the world are not the ones who have the most. They're the ones who know what to walk away from. They are the ones who go narrow and deep. The ones who master their message, the ones who protect their peace, the ones who pour into fewer things, but pour everything into them. That's what creates impact. That's what creates legacy, not more, but meaning, not quantity, but quality. And that's the path you've chosen now, a path that's quieter but stronger, slower but sharper, simpler but richer. You're not trying to do more anymore. You're trying to do what matters, and do it deeply, fully, unapologetically, because a life that's deep will always outshine a life that's wide. And now, finally, you're ready to stop skimming. You're ready to sink in. You start to see the world differently when you stop chasing more. You stop being impressed by loud success and start being moved by quiet presence. You stop admiring those who do everything and start respecting those who do the right thing, with quiet precision, with invisible power. Because doing less is not about lowering your standards. It's about raising your standards so high that only what truly matters makes it through. You no longer let everything in. You no longer respond to everything that demands your attention. You choose, you curate, you become intentional with your time, your words, your energy. And people won't understand it. They'll think you've become distant, detached, cold. But what they don't see is that you're not running away from them. You're returning to yourself. You've stopped leaking your life into meaningless interactions. You've stopped saying yes just to avoid guilt. You've stopped betraying your soul just to be polite. Because now every yes is sacred. Every no is an act of self-respect. Every silence is purposeful. You realize that some people were only meant for the version of you that couldn't say no. The version of you that believed being available meant being valuable. But that version is gone. And what stands now is someone who no longer performs, but embodies, who no longer reacts, but responds, who no longer scrambles for attention, but radiates quiet confidence. Because when you go deep, you stop needing applause. You stop needing validation. You stop needing to constantly prove. The depth itself becomes enough. The process becomes the reward. The alignment becomes the freedom. You start enjoying empty space. You begin to crave solitude, not as an escape, but as a return. You protect your mornings. You guard your peace. You stop explaining your path to people who've never walked it. And suddenly, you have more time. Not because you created more hours, but because you cut what never belonged. Your schedule breathes, your mind clears, your body slows. And in that stillness, you find creativity again. You find clarity again. You find yourself again. You look at your life and realize you don't miss the noise. You don't miss the chaos. You don't miss the old version of you who tried to be everywhere. Because now, when you speak, it matters. When you move, it's precise. When you give, it's powerful. Your presence no longer shouts. It whispers, it hums, it resonates, and people feel it. Not because you're doing more, but because you've become more by doing less. That's the paradox they don't teach you. Less effort, more depth. Less noise, more impact. Less distraction, more soul. This is the new way. This is the way of substance over speed. Clarity over clutter. Essence over excess. You didn't lose your edge. You found it sharper, simpler, unshakable. There's a shift that happens when you stop trying to be everything. When you stop trying to prove, to chase, to impress. You begin to live from your center, not from your fear. You begin to choose from your soul, not from your insecurity. And everything changes. You don't rush anymore. You don't overcommit. You don't say yes when your whole body whispers no. You finally understand. The depth of your life depends on the depth of your decisions. And your decisions are no longer driven by urgency but by alignment. Not by pressure but by principle. You look at your life like a sculptor looks at marble, not asking, what can I add, but what must I remove so that what's real can emerge? And you chip away at the unnecessary, the noise, the false obligations, the draining expectations, the things that kept you busy but left you hollow. And underneath all of it, you find something rare: stillness, presence, power, not the loud kind, not the kind that needs to be noticed, but the kind that radiates from within and speaks for itself. You start living like someone who knows what matters, who walks slowly but with fire, who says little but says it with weight, who gives less but gives it with heart. That kind of life is not common. It won't go viral, but it will be felt deeply by the people who matter, in the places that count. It will echo, not because it's loud, but because it's true. So no, you don't need more goals. You don't need more possessions. You don't need more validation. You need more truth, more soul, more intention, more still mornings and long silences, more choosing what you love over what looks good, more trusting that depth will take you farther than speed ever could. And when you live this way, less but deeper, you find something the world can't give you: peace. Not peace as escape, but peace as power, peace as clarity, peace as alignment. And that peace becomes your anchor, your guide, your new definition of success. Not how much you do, but how deeply you live. Not how many people know your name, but how fully you know yourself. Not how wide you reach, but how deep you touch. So let the world keep spinning fast. Let the noise keep getting louder. You have nothing to prove there. You're not chasing more. You're building something deeper. And that is the kind of life that doesn't just survive. It expands. It heals. It awakens. It lasts. Because it's rooted. Because it's real. Because it's yours.